Harrison Ford turned 83 in 2025, yet he still drives like someone who hates sitting still. Most stars store classics under covers, but his keeps showing up in traffic and at airports. Why keep machines that demand effort, upkeep, and risk? Today I will show you 8 classic cars Harrison Ford still drives, and the one you would never guess. Number 8. 2022 Tesla Model X. 670 horsepower in a 3-row SUV feels like a joke. Yet that exact setup shows up in Harrison Ford's garage and it changes how you read him. A 2022 Tesla Model X keeps getting linked to his personal lineup, sitting right beside cars from the 1950s and 60s, and that contrast is the point. You probably picture him in dusty movie trucks, so why would he choose a futuristic SUV with doors that look like a sci-fi prop? Here's the part that pulls you in. The dual-motor Model X runs 0 to 60 in 3.8 seconds, which puts a huge family vehicle in sports car territory. Think about that for a second. A quiet electric SUV that jumps off the line faster than plenty of loud performance cars, and it does it while looking like everyday traffic. Would you even notice it at a stoplight if you didn't know who was driving? Then the practical logic starts stacking up. The cabin gives 3 rows for kids and grandkids, and the cargo space handles bikes or gear without playing trunk Tetris. Those falcon wing doors also solve a boring, real problem: tight parking in Los Angeles, because they rise up and give you more room to step out. What really makes it feel like his kind of move is how invisible it can be. Most viewers notice superheroes in Teslas, but they rarely imagine Indiana Jones in one, and that mismatch makes the car feel even more real. And once you accept that, a rougher vehicle starts making even more sense. Number 7. Ford F-150 Raptor. A 450 horsepower pickup sits on the same list as his Jaguars and Teslas. That sounds random until you remember where he actually lives part of the year. A Ford F-150 Raptor shows up in coverage of his collection, and it carries the full off-road personality, twin-turbo V6 power, and the kind of suspension built for punishment. So here's the real question. Does this feel like a celebrity toy, or does it feel like a tool he would actually use? The Raptor's whole pitch is that it can take hits. You get skid plates, long travel suspension, and ground clearance that makes rough roads feel smaller. And that matters when your life includes wide open space. Ford owns an 800-acre ranch in Wyoming, and that single detail changes everything. Because a low sports car makes no sense on ranch roads, but a truck like this fits without trying. There is also the privacy angle, and it is sneaky. A Tesla or a flashy coupe in Los Angeles can attract attention fast, but a dusty pickup in Jackson Hole blends in with every other truck in the lot. Can you picture the moment someone finally looks over and realizes Han Solo just parked beside them at the feed store? That mix of power and camouflage explains a lot. It looks tough, it behaves tough, and it also helps him live like a normal person for 5 minutes. Now hold on to that idea of normal, because his next car does it even better. Number 6. 2021 Tesla Model S. In March 2015, Harrison Ford survived a serious crash landing. A couple of months later, he got photographed driving again, and the car choice said plenty. The crash involved a vintage Ryan Trainer, and after that kind of headline, every public appearance gets read like a message. So why climb into a Tesla sedan instead of something loud and dramatic, especially when cameras already followed him? A later listing ties him to a 2021 Tesla Model S, and the numbers are wild for a quiet 4-door 670 horsepower 0 to 60 in 3.1 seconds and a top speed close to 149 miles per hour. That means the safe-looking sedan can outrun a lot of classic movie hero cars, and it does it with almost no noise, which changes the whole vibe when you see it roll by. For someone in his 80s who still works and still deals with attention, that stealth matters. Tinted windows help, the lack of exhaust noise helps, and the whole experience stays low drama while still being fast. The autopilot feature also fits the boring reality of Los Angeles driving because it can handle long freeway stretches while you focus on traffic instead of constantly watching the speedometer. The underrated twist is how calm it looks from the outside. It reads like a regular car right up until you remember what it can do. And that sets up a totally different kind of regular, because his next pick looks like pure dad mode. Number 5. 2002 Mercedes-Benz E-Class wagon. A 3.2-liter V6 station wagon sits in his lineup. That sounds almost too ordinary until you line it up with what changed in 2002. Around that time, he started dating Callista Flockhart, and he helped raise her son, which turned his day-to-day life into something far more family-centered. According to listings tied to his collection, that is when a 2002 Mercedes-Benz E-Class wagon enters the picture, and suddenly the choice feels less boring and more smart. The engine output gets quoted around 221 horsepower, and the performance looks calm on paper, about 0 to 60 in 8.2 seconds with a 5-speed automatic. So here's the real question. Why would an A-list actor pick a wagon that will never win a drag race? Because a wagon like this wins at everything else. You get a quiet cabin, leather comfort, and a cargo area that swallows real life, bags, gear, and whatever a weekend needs without forcing you to pack light. It also stays under the radar, and that matters when you want to go to the airport without turning it into a mini event. The funniest part is the image clash. The guy who played smugglers and treasure hunters rolling around in the exact kind of Mercedes wagon suburban parents dream about that feels more revealing than any supercar ever could. And once you picture him choosing comfort over flash, a certain 1990s roadster becomes easier to understand. Number 4. 1993 Mercedes-Benz SL500. A 5.0-liter V8 and about 315 horsepower made this a 1990s status symbol. He picked one in 1993, and the surprising part is that he held on to it. The car is a 1993 Mercedes-Benz SL500, part of the R129 generation that became a celebrity default in that era. It came with a 4-speed automatic, real long-distance comfort, and a top speed electronically capped around 155 miles per hour, which is plenty for a convertible that also knows how to cruise. So why keep it when so many famous people rotate cars like outfits? A profile tied to his collection puts it plainly. He never felt the need to part with his, and that one line makes the car feel personal rather than performative. It hits a sweet spot because it can feel classy and calm with the hardtop on, then instantly turn into a sun and canyon road machine with the roof down. There is also a fan-friendly detail hiding in the market reality. Prices for these have hovered around the low 5 figures, which means this is one of the rare Harrison Ford cars that regular people can actually chase without billionaire money. Does that make it more tempting knowing you could drive something close to his 1990s choice? The underrated twist is that it sits right between eras. It feels modern enough to use, old enough to feel special, and personal enough that he kept it. Now the timeline snaps backward hard because his next vehicle connects to the moment he chased Hollywood for real. Number 3. 1960 VW Camper. A 1960 VW Type 2 helped a 22-year-old Harrison Ford reach California. That was before fame, before money, and before anyone cared who he was. After graduating from Ripon College, he drove that VW Camper west in the mid-1960s, and the detail matters because this van was more than transportation. It doubled as a tiny moving base while he chased voiceover work and small acting parts, and he also worked as a carpenter to pay bills, which is the part many people forget. One specific number makes the struggle feel real. He even had a $150 per week Columbia Pictures contract during that period. You hear contract and assume success, but he found it underwhelming and walked away from studio life for a while, which sounds risky until you remember he had that van and his tools, meaning he could keep moving and keep working. So when people talk about overnight success, what they miss is the mileage. He used to pilot that VW camper across America's Midwest, then drove it all the way to California, and every mile was a bet without a safety net. Can you imagine doing that with no guarantee it pays off? Decades later, photos caught him checking out a red Combi with a for sale sign, sparking talk that he wanted another one, which makes sense because nostalgia hits harder when it has wheels. From a scrappy VW, his taste later jumped to a British roadster that feels like pure weekend escape. Number 2, 1966 Austin-Healey 3000. A 3.0-liter inline-six and about 150 horsepower powered this classic British roadster. He sits at an 800-acre ranch in Jackson Hole, and that location explains the whole vibe. The car is a 1966 Austin-Healey 3000 MK3, often described in traditional British racing green, and it carries that old-school setup people romanticize for a reason. You get a 4-speed manual with overdrive, a wooden dashboard, leather bucket seats, and steering that feels heavy at low speed, which means you feel the road in your hands instead of through a screen. Performance numbers stay realistic, 0 to 60 under 10 seconds, and a top speed around 115 miles per hour. And that honesty is part of the charm. It never pretends to be modern, and it never needs to. So here is the question. Why would someone with access to anything choose a car this analog? Because it matches the way he seems to live when he gets away from cameras. Fan accounts and photos have shown him actually driving it with the roof down instead of locking it away. And that is the key detail. The car looks like it lives, not like it sits behind velvet ropes. There is also real history baked into the model. In the 1960s, the Healey 3000 dominated rallies and sports car racing, and that reputation still rides along every time it starts up, even if the drive is just a quiet Wyoming road. And that sets up the real crown jewel, because his number 1 car feels like a movie prop he uses in real traffic. Number 1, 1955 Jaguar XK140. A 1955 Jaguar XK140 has about 190 horsepower from a 3.4-liter straight six. That sounds like museum material, yet he uses one as real Los Angeles transport. Multiple write-ups tie this exact model to Harrison Ford as his preferred classic around LA, and the performance details are specific. About 0 to 60 in 8.4 seconds with a top speed near 125 miles per hour. Those numbers sound tame next to his Teslas, but the appeal here has nothing to do with drag races and everything to do with feel. Photos and coverage around 2015 showed him driving the XK140 around the city, and that detail matters because it proves the car stays in rotation instead of living on a trailer. If you picture a celebrity hiding a vintage Jaguar for special occasions, this flips that assumption because he has been spotted actually using it like a normal car, the kind of thing you take to studio lots, airport trips, and even everyday errands. The model itself already carries weight. Built between 1954 and 1957 in limited numbers, the XK140 counts as a serious collector car, which makes it even stranger that it ends up sitting at stoplights beside compact crossovers. So what pushes someone to drive a car like that in modern traffic, where one careless bump can ruin your week? The Jaguar stays alive because he treats it like a real machine, not a trophy. Once you know that, every Harrison Ford chase scene lands differently, because you can picture what he chooses when nobody yells action. Now you know what Ford drives when cameras leave and some choices feel unreal. Tell me your favorite in comments and tap the next video on your screen right now.